Good afternoon and welcome to the last session of Africa Business Week. In the past few days, we've highlighted 9 different countries and sectors, and hopefully you took full advantage of the several sessions and webinars, and maybe some of them are actually available to view on demand in the upcoming week. We will share those links with you via email, so if you missed some of them, no worries, they might be available later on. In this session, we will talk all about sustainable energy in Senegal, Nigeria and Morocco, and also, of course, the rising demand for innovative solutions in sustainable energy. And in the first half, we will joining us via video call will be Mr. Job, founder of EPM Consulting in Senegal, Mrs. Bagou, Managing Director at Nigerlink, Nigeria, and Mrs. El Khalifa, General Director at Cluster Solaire, Morocco. And in the second half of this webinar, we will have a panel discussion on sustainable energy, in which we exchange thoughts, developments, and of course, experiences. And joining us via video call then will be Amaranth Bergenkamp, Manager Energy West and North Africa at the FMO Development Bank. And live here in the studio later on, 2 gentlemen, Koen Peters, Executive Director at Gogla, and Harmen van Heijst, Founder Director at Rural Spark. So a full lineup. Hopefully you will have every opportunity to ask your questions, and we have some for you lined up as well. So we will open the first poll voting question, because we are very curious, at what stage do you consider your company to be in with regard to sustainable energy market in Senegal, Nigeria and Morocco. So you can choose between several options. The first one being, I'm gathering preliminary information to scope the market. I'm in touch with local counterparts to investigate the options. Maybe you are in the process of closing an agreement or contract, and I'm fully operational in one of these countries. Of course, we would love to hear that as well. And the last one is other, and you can elaborate on that in the chat, because the chat is there for your use. The questions will be submitted here to the studio. We have several moderators answering maybe some of them for you backstage as well. And if you send your question, you submit them to the studio, we can ask them to our local experts that are on session here this afternoon. So let me take a look. Most of you so far are gathering preliminary information to scope the market. Very good, because we will be sharing plenty of expertise on that today. And we have a second question for you straight away as well. When doing business in Senegal, Nigeria or Morocco, what are the challenges you're facing? So you might not have set up any businesses yet, but just feel free to maybe share your hurdles that you're thinking of that you might meet in the end when you start doing businesses, and we can talk all about that here in the studio. So the choices would be finding a local partner, culture and language of doing business, access to finance, rules and regulations, other. Please share and elaborate in the chat. And maybe you can say, if you have no idea, I've not done any business in one of these countries so far. So take your time. We're just very pleased that you're here and tuning in today. And good to know this session will be available on demand later on this week as well. And the B2Match app is there with several interesting articles and links for maybe some background information. So make sure to check that later on. So I would like to invite our first guest here via video call joining us, Mr. Job, founder of EPM Consulting, the local expert in Senegal. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Of afternoon, might be.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. So my name is Demba Diop. I'm currently in Maputo, in Mozambique. So I have been working on the energy sector since more than 30 years, founder of EPM Consulting, which is an advisory company based in the Netherlands. But I've been also developing several projects in Africa. For example, the 50 megawatt Saint Louis wind park in Senegal, and also recently we signed with the government of Mali a PPA for 50 megawatt solar in Fana. So I am currently doing a scoping study for RVO and the Dutch embassy in Senegal to identify opportunities into the Senegalese renewable market for Dutch companies and institutions. We are just started. We are still on the inception phases. So what we can say right now is that this market is quite big, because for every 4 Senegalese you take, only 3 of them has access to electricity, meaning that actually there are roughly 4 million of Senegalese, mainly on the rural area, which are left behind. So this is a huge market for rural electrification. Why? Because the government aim at the universal access to energy by 2024, which will be requiring actually €2 billion investment. So they recently hold a roundtable in Senegal, and they attracted a huge possibility of investment, of which, for example, the USAIDs will be investing 600 million on energy access, but also as large players like the IFD, the French Corporation, the World Bank, African Development Bank, DIZ, GTZ, but also Exim Bank, India, and China. So, right. So against this background, our work actually is to find out what are the chances of the Netherlands, because they have different, maybe have different approach than the American and the French in Senegal. So what we find out at this stage is actually those are 4 niches that we pre-identified for the Dutch companies. One of them is, of course, the off-grid rural market, where we say that there is still 4 million Senegalese that need to have access to energy, of which we believe that 80% should be done through the off-grid sector because they are on remote areas. Another good opportunity is also the productive use. For example, for the water, agriculture, and energy nexus. Netherlands has been traditionally a huge investor in the Senegalese horticultural market, but we realized that actually one of the bottlenecks for the development of this sector is the production cost, of which 25% of the costs are only on energy, because people use expensive gensets and systems that are quite expensive, and this hamper actually the profitability on this sector. A third niche that we could recommend, that we will be also investigating into deep, is the rooftop market, solar rooftop market, especially for small and medium companies, but also for the urban household, because cost of energy is high in Senegal, and the way they are building provide a lot of opportunities for this segment. There are 2 other sectors that we will also investigate in our studies, but where we believe that maybe this will be less attractive. One of them is the waste to energy, and another is also the energy efficiency for appliance, but also for building and infrastructure. At this stage, this is what I can say about where we are. We just started, so I'm open to questions.
Yes, let me just ask the people at home too, because we have another poll voting question. Because this sector study is just opening up, just starting, it might be interesting to have your views on what would be interesting for you to read in the report. So viewers at home, we're opening the 3rd poll voting question for you. So what information, or which information, should the sector report on renewable energy in Senegal contain? So this is your opportunity to say, okay, we need more information about national policy framework on renewable energy, trade restrictions, relevant national rules and regulations, main bottlenecks for doing business, Senegalese business culture, or other, and then you can add that to the chat as well. So I can see lots of people are voting, so that's good. There's a lot of interest for that at the moment. So, Mr. Job, I heard you say in horticulture, 25% goes to energy, but that sounded like that's too much high costs. Would you say that is one of the main challenges Senegal is facing at the moment in solar energy or in sustainable energy?
Yes, it's not only the horticulture. This is a study done by the United Nations Industrial Development, UNIDO. which is working also on increasing the efficiency of the small and medium companies. But they realize that in Senegal, actually, energy can take up to 25% average of the production cost within the industry, but also within the agricultural sector. Because the cost of power are mostly generated through expensive fuel that is imported in the country, while the country has huge opportunity for especially solar and wind to generate actually lower electricity that costs lower, especially for small uses like in the agricultural sector. You know, there is a need for water pumping, there is a need for irrigation, there is a need for cooling, there is a need for small scale transformation before those products could be exported. Yes, energy is a big challenge.
Yes, and you say solar and wind would be opportunities to tune into. So what kind of businesses would be welcome, or where what niche market can the Dutch entrepreneurs take a closer look on?
Right, especially solar pumping and specialty like for cooling facilities, you know, using solar or hybrid system, that could be a very good opportunity that we believe. And especially when we see that also that the Netherlands are the largest investor into the horticulture sector in Senegal. Like you can see in the Netherlands, you go to supermarket, I can just call any, you could find, for example, beans or tomatoes or mangoes coming from Senegal through those Dutch investors, traders. I think that they could maybe expand or make their business much more profitable if they can include some renewable energy solution into the production system rather than using these generator systems.
Exactly. So especially in the production lines, but also in off-grid solutions, there's a big market to maybe tune into.
Yes, I am seeing more the opportunity for the Dutch companies onto the off-grid market, because on the other side, there are already huge players. And like I was saying, the most of the needs are on the rural area and on the productive, for the productive use. For the rural area, we need off-grid. I don't see so much or recommend, for example, the Dutch companies going into transport of energy or distribution of energy like the Indian or the Chinese are doing, or into huge infrastructure projects like the French or the American are doing, but more into those remote areas where I think the Netherlands has good expertise. I've seen it with Nested here in East Africa, where I'm based, you know, in countries like Kenya, Tanzania, etc. I think this is a good opportunity. The other opportunities also is within the solar rooftop subsector that need to be really explored. And I think that the Netherlands has developed a lot of knowledge and policies, you know, in cooperation between the private sector and the city halls and the municipalities, you know, to enable household and companies to use their solar rooftops. You know, those are all type of experience that could be, I think, duplicated through the Senegalese context.
So, for instance, when we have some solar rooftop developers or entrepreneurs watching at the moment, what kind of maybe legislation parts or other difficulties might they face when they start doing business in Senegal?
Exactly. One of the main problems is actually that on the regulation framework is that you have the national utilities, which has only the right to sell electricity to others. But if you look at it carefully, also the Senegalese environment provide also alternative to those type of things. It's all depend about how you position your company. For example, if you do installations and you lease it to a company, then there is no problem. But you cannot have like a PPA that will be only reserved for the national utilities.
So it might be wise.
This is also part of the investigation that we are doing right now. We are discussing it with the utilities. We are discussing also with the government.
So your advice would also be to have a local trade partner, maybe someone who can inform you on those legislations.
it is very important. And also this study, we will be using it to connect with the government and also to point out those pieces of legislation and regulation that need to be improved.
Okay, so let's have a look. We have another poll voting questions to get our audience to know them a bit better. The next one is which subsectors of the Senegalese renewable energy market would you be most interested in? So we have several answers, of course. You can choose between solar home systems, solar mini grids, because that might be an option as well. We'll talk about that a little later on. Solar energy solutions for agriculture, residential solar PV paneling, solar PV solutions for businesses, and energy production from waste and biomass, or other. Please elaborate in chat. So I'm just taking a look at how the chat is doing at the moment while you are answering those poll voting questions. So there's not much going on, but this is your chance at home to have some direct contact with our local experts. So make sure you take advantage of that. And let me have a look, because you are voting in the polls. Lots of people say other. So please let us know what your main focus is. And let me see, solar energy solutions for agriculture that we just spoke about. So Mr. Job, could you maybe elaborate on the possibilities of the mini grids?
Yes, mini grid is a real option. There is a good knowledge in the country on mini grid. I think Senegal has in West Africa the most mini grid ongoing, much more, even relatively the size of the population. You know, if you compare it to Ghana or Ivory Coast or Nigeria. So there is a good experience into mini grid in the country. And also the legislation is quite open into mini grid. The country, when I'm talking about mini grid, I'm talking about only on rural electrification, is divided into concessions. There are 10 on it, of those concessions, which are operating. Grid extension is possible only where the density of the population enable that on an efficiency way. But if we look at the configuration, we can see that 80% of those remaining places, you know, those last mile to receive electricity, are too far away from the grid. So the only option they have there is mini grid. And this market is estimated about roughly 2 billion euro, according to the recent figures from the roundtable that Senegal organized in order to reach this universal access by 2024. So this market is quite big. So and there is already some experience. There are local companies already. I think the main bottleneck actually is more the financing part of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's lots of experience on the ground, trained professionals as well. So that might actually be a chance for the Dutch to learn some about local mini grids, because that might be an upcoming luxury here with several other forms of living, maybe some rural living as well. Well, very different from Africa, of course. But in that case, we can exchange, of course, those knowledges.
Yes, also, of course, that, but I'm looking more also to the possibility of making business, you know, partnership with local companies in order to take those markets. For example, if we take the last 4 concessions of the countries that has been provided to the national utilities, but they are not, how to say, they don't have all the tools and all the knowledge on mini grids, because they are used, you know, to this huge infrastructure project, not small project. They are not able to run small projects, you know, like electrifying a village of 1,000 people and etc. So these are the opportunities, you know, teaming up with, for example, Senegal and providing those information. I know already some big companies interested also. There are some projects that has been financed by the EU, some mini grid, and where the operation and maintenance also need to be transferred to private companies. This is also an option, because they have a huge program run by the Senegalese government and also financed by the Senegalese government. But the option now is to provide the operation and maintenance phases to private operators. This could be also an interesting option for the Dutch companies.
So if the Dutch entrepreneurs watching right now would like to contact you about one of these solutions or one of these bottlenecks to solve them, how could they contact with you?
Oh, we do have an address. I think RVO has our address. We could also provide it through this link.
Yes, okay, so great. Then we'll make sure that the people at home receive those contacts. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise, and good luck with the sector study.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll be in touch soon.
Yes, definitely.
Have a good day. So joining us, our next guest is Mrs. Tessa Bagu, Managing Director at Nigerlink Nigeria. So we just had all these interesting talks about the possibilities in Senegal, and right now we're switching to Nigeria. Thank you. Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Is it afternoon already? Yeah, I'm just a bit confused with all the time zones. Thank you for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So could you maybe elaborate a bit, explain to our viewers at home that what is it that Nigerlink does? What is that your company do?
Thanks very much. Nigerlink is a trade and investment facilitation company. So we offer services to international companies who wish to expand into or in Nigeria. And we do that with research, advisory services, local setup, like a one-stop shop, really.
So you serve as a hub in between, like an information center?
Well, it's more than information. It's very practical as well. I mean, Nigeria is, everybody knows it as the giant of Africa, but it can be challenging to do business. So we really try to make that easier. So it's a very hands-on approach to helping companies succeed. And of course, we also give information about the market, but it's also to link people with the opportunities directly.
Exactly, to establish that local network and make sure that doing business becomes easier.
Absolutely.
So let's have an overall outlook. How serious is Nigeria's ambition to become more sustainable?
It's interesting because Nigeria, most of its electricity comes from gas, thermal power, and hydropower. But I went to Africa's largest thermal plant not too long ago, and they had no electricity produced that day, like 0 megawatts. And this just shows that, like, if Nigeria wants to service its entire population, it has to go renewable. At the moment, only 1% of all energy is renewable, but you cannot reach the 200 million people in Nigeria based on the current infrastructure. So the government has actually been quite ambitious in that they said that by 2030, 30% of all energy has to be from renewable sources. But what I actually see more is also the private sector involvement driving that more even than the government. And just an example is that, like, very soon, Nigeria will be housing West Africa's largest solar farm of 200 megawatts, which is a Singaporean and a Nigerian collaboration. So the international investors, the private sector is driving a move from fossil fuels away to solar. And I think Nigerian people will be quite happy because currently they spend $22 billion every year on powering generator sets. So ambitious, yes, and I think it can be realistic as well because of the incredible gap between the supply and demand of electricity.
So I heard you say that the infrastructure might be a big challenge in that. Is that also something that the Dutch entrepreneurs can maybe combine their knowledge with or share some expertise in?
Yes and no. We know what the challenges are with the infrastructure. And I think where the Dutch can really come in is if they build on the opportunities outside of the current grid. Also, like Mr. Diop mentioned, the off-grid solution that the Dutch can provide is probably more suitable for Nigeria. Also because then you can have captive energy projects where you have an understanding between who you supply the electricity to and how you get reimbursed for it. So then you have a better business case.
And in that case, you can set up local businesses that involves everybody around. It maybe make sure that it establishes a more secure cities or villages even.
And even particular companies as an off-taker. An example is Heineken, who have one of their breweries now powered by solar. But also the banks here, I understand that 40% of their operational expense is on diesel. So they are putting their branches on solar energy now as well. So you can really look at like who can afford your solution and start selling to them. But I also spoke to entrepreneurs who develop entire mini grids for a particular market or a particular village. And then they have, an off-taker agreement. The opportunity is vast. It's everywhere in this country.
So recently you finished a report for the Dutch embassy to map opportunities for Dutch companies over there as well. What were your findings?
Well, first of all, that opportunity is so massive. 70% is now looking at is household solar, I would say, so the rooftop panels, etc., which is a pay-as-you-go system. And if you want to operate in that segment, you would have to work with a local partner, charge in naira, etc. But what I found most in our report or in our study, and this is based on over 50 conversations with stakeholders, is that there is such an opportunity in the B2B segment as well. So I mentioned the breweries, but there is also shopping malls that are now being roofed with those panels. And as in Senegal, agriculture. We found that generally the market is quite crowded in the number of players, local and international. But there is still a lot of capacity for more involvement, and it's in agriculture, which of course connects very well with the Dutch capacity in the entire value chain. But it's essentially the main finding is that if you bring better technology, so higher capacity at a better or lower cost, then you have a market. And also that, like, if you come with finance that will allow you to roll out faster, then you can also beat the competition. So essentially, every village in Nigeria is an opportunity for you. Every business is an opportunity for you. Only 30% of the rural areas have access to electricity, and overall, it's just 60%. So you have 40% of 200 million people that have no access to grid electricity. That is how big the opportunity really is. And they say that the potential market, actually, again, the same as in Senegal, is worth $2 billion. So it's a massive opportunity out there.
So in Senegal, we spoke about local expertise already being there. Is that the same in Nigeria?
To an extent, there are some really good local companies also investing in manufacturing, for example. There is quite a bit of international competition. I know that like the UK and Canada and co, they're also actively looking at the sector. Germany is very active. But at the same time, I hear examples of panels being installed in the wrong angle so that the output is very insufficient. So generally, skills are very difficult to find. And every single solar installation company that I spoke with said that lack of competence technical competence is the main issue, which they mentioned immediately after access to finance, of course.
Yeah, so finance and proper education on how to install and make full use of the products would be an interesting field as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And then accreditation of courses. The Dutch can also help with technical curriculum in the technical colleges, but also, of course, a transfer of skills during projects. And I think if you want to do business in Nigeria, you're best suited to work with a local partner who knows the terrain. And that in itself is an opportunity to transfer skills to a new generation of technicians. And Nigeria will need lots of them. We have some capable people, but by no means it's enough for the entire development of solar. Like I said, from 1% now to 30% by 2030, you need a lot of skilled people.
So do you have the contacts as well for maybe to get in contact with the schools or educational centers or training centers?
Absolutely. So that linking is exactly what we do. But also to make it a little bit easier, we've done a report also for the RVO and the Dutch Consulate General here in Lagos. And it will also contain names and details of players in the industry. So you get already a bit of an understanding, but by all means, people should contact me and I can, my company and I, we can connect any Dutch company with the relevant targets.
So maybe you can share a bit more about what qualities are absolutely necessary when you want to start doing business in Nigeria.
You have to be resilient, I suppose. Have a bit of a sense of humor. Everything is taking time, yet by the time it has to be implemented yesterday. So, but what I would really say is be flexible, adjust your proposition to Nigeria, not think that like, oh, I have a solution for Kenya, so let me copy paste it into Nigeria. It's a very unique country and you have to understand the country. And I have seen companies do extremely well and I've seen companies run away from this place. And for me, the big difference between those two types of output or outcome is the level of preparation that they put into it. This is not a country where you can just, take a plane and take any taxi and you'll do business. You have to be prepared. You have to know who you're doing business with, a very good local partner that you do due diligence, who has the capacity, the same mindset as you. And know the terrain, know where it's safe, So preparation is key, and that is what I would say. But the other second big thing I would like to say is don't be deterred by what you hear about Nigeria. I know there's a lot of bad press out there, but then again, I've been here for almost 15 years and I have a business and I'm still alive. And I see a lot of Dutch companies, international companies thrive in this place. So just be prepared, but definitely explore it because there's few countries in the world where there's a bigger need for solar than in Nigeria.
Exactly. And you wanted to do a shout out to our viewers at the moment as well, right?
Yeah, because, a lot of people are perhaps contemplating doing business in Nigeria or they are already doing business in Nigeria. And I really wanted to know what kind of support do you require? And that is something I would be really interested in because I can imagine a few things, but I would love to hear it from the audience. Like, what is the support that will really make you successful in Nigeria?
Exactly. And you can, I'm saying you to our audience, you can put that into the chat and I'll just bring up the answers of our second poll voting. Those were more general about Nigeria, Morocco and Senegal, but maybe we can put them onto the screen because we had a similar version for the 3 countries. Let me just take a look. So for all countries combined, the answer most chosen was I've not done business yet. So that was a good one. But hopefully for Nigeria, we can become a bit more specific. Finding a local partner was important. And culture and language of doing business. Is there a different language going on? Is there a hierarchy that we need to know of?
With English, so that makes it easy. Most of the managers and higher, staff in companies, company owners would have most likely studied overseas, so they're very aware of the international way of doing things. A lot of them would have, Nigerians travel all the time, so there's a lot of international exposure, especially in Lagos. Hierarchy, what we say here is the Oga on top who decides. So it's the boss is important. So if you want to do business with Nigeria, you have to deal with decision makers and not go from bottom up, but really start with the owner, start with the directors, because otherwise your progress will be very slow. And that slowness equals to cost of doing business, of course.
I think that's a very useful tip. I see some questions coming in for your contact information, but we just showed your name again on screen. So hopefully you at home could capture that. And also via the B2Match, I would advise you to add each other via LinkedIn because B2Match will be available for some time, but not forever. So make sure to establish those connections. Mrs. Bagu, for now, thank you so much for your time and expertise. And if we have several follow-up coming in via the chat, we will make sure to share that with you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here. And I really hope to see more Dutch companies doing business in Nigeria. So see you soon.
Thank you for your time. So next up for our panelists is General Director of Cluster Solaire Morocco, Mrs. El Khalifa. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've had an outlook on Nigeria and on Senegal this morning or this afternoon. I keep having those time zones intertwined. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy today to talk about the Morocco opportunities for your companies. As you may know, Morocco has been a pioneer in the continent regarding the development of renewable energy strategy with a very ambitious objective. We are targeting to achieve 52% within our energetic mix coming from renewable energy source, along with objective regarding the energy performance or efficiency, energy efficiency in Morocco. So we are really engaged toward the green energy transition.
Yeah. Maybe you could explain us a bit more about what Cluster Solaire does as a company.
Of course. So the Solar Cluster is a non-profit organization. We gather all the main actors from the renewable energy efficiency and green technology ecosystem. So our members are all coming from the private sector. So we have all type of industries and companies from the private sector. We are today more than 162 company from the private sector. Also the universities, R&D centers, so research and development centers, as well as the institutional or the public institution in Morocco, for example, Mazen, LAME, the Moroccan Agency for Energy Efficiency, SCE is the energy efficiency investment company, ONE is the national Moroccan state government agency for the production, distribution, and transport of energy. So our main goal is to create synergies between all these actors and really enhance and build capacity of the local ecosystem. And this is done through different services. We offer first the support to the development of collaborative and innovative projects. So for that, the Solar Cluster has its main strength, which is puts the main partners around the table, so we can have this capacity and the agility to actually federate the private sector, the universities, the R&D centers to develop new solutions. It's really important to innovate and to be able to follow up the trend and to follow up the evolution and also the maturity of this green sector, which is developing very, very quickly here in Morocco. We also offer other services besides the technical assistance for the development of collaborative and innovative projects. Is building capacity. So the Solar Cluster offer a different range of training. So it's really technical trainings that targets Moroccan company or also African companies from Africa that reach us for this building capacity training. So the capacity building, as I said, targets technical training in renewable energy, green technology, energy efficiency workshops, also for the sectors, webinars, e-learning platforms with different sessions depending on the modules that are needed from our ecosystem. And to give you an overview about the type of activities or building capacity activities and trainings that we have already done in the solar cluster. So we can, for example, talk about trainings on the dimensioning softwares, for example, Archelios, Elkaar, PVC's training on industrial use of parabolic trough solar technology, labelization of solar and photovoltaic trainers, and we have generated and created the first label to certify the Moroccan photovoltaic installer and developers here in Morocco in collaboration with the AME and AMISOL. So it's called Taqa Pro. You can see it on our website. So Taqa Pro for solar rooftops, Taqa Pro for solar pumping. And this label, so we train the Moroccan companies to make sure that they work or they install the solar systems within the needed level of quality and also the security standards. And also we put them into contact with potential clients. We also have trainings on the legal side. So for example, on PPA, so what we call the power purchase agreement, also on the ESCO model, which is an innovative way of financing renewable energy projects, energy management system certification, training on thermal solar domestic hot water, for example. So really, we had done more than 100 topics on this building capacity side. So other type of services that we provide are the networking and B2B. This is really a key pillar from our in our mission as a solar cluster. So we developed, first of all, I want to talk about our platform. We developed a platform called the Moroccan Business Network Platform. It's a kind of Facebook, but a professional one. It's a professional interactive platform that is listing today more than 700 Moroccan company operating within the new renewable energy sector and the green sector in general. So you can go look through the different companies, have an overview about their activity, their level of their experiences, their references, the level of labelization or certification. And this platform would help the creation of a consortium of partnership between Moroccan company and international companies. It also enhances transfer of competencies, transfer of know-how between the Moroccan company and in the foreign companies within the green field. So we really suggest to the companies that are connected with us today to have a look to our platform and see. It also gives you an overview about the maturity of the sector, the type of companies that implemented, and also the value chain of the green economy sector here in Morocco. We also organize a lot of events to put through or to put in contact our members with donors, the donors within the sector. It could be Mazen, it could be EDF, TSK, all the big donors or the big companies that launch tenders for renewable energy projects. So we put them through in contact, I mean, with the service provider or industrial component provider. And the last service or type of service that we offer are what we call economic intelligence. So we provide studies, specific studies within the Moroccan sector. It's also something I can share with you. We have run studies about the Moroccan engineering within the solar sector. Also one about the opportunities or sizing of the markets, the application market. And when I talk about application, we are actually speaking about rooftops, decentralized rooftops, solar rooftops, water heating, solar pumping, solar lighting as well. So we did this comprehensive study to size the local Moroccan markets today and also its opportunities within 2030, and show actually put or enhance really the opportunity to invest in this type of field for Moroccan company, but also for foreign ones. So this is our main services. And we also, besides this area of building capacity, access to information, and developing a green, competitive Moroccan ecosystem, we are also active within the green entrepreneurial field. So we run the first Moroccan green incubator called the Green Business Incubator here in Morocco. So we also promote the innovation within the green technology. So we support more than 50 startups per year here within the solar cluster, and it's really getting a very good results because we can we really had a very great solution, innovative one that also had the chance to raise funds, but also to go to the industrial phase. So we are very proud of that as well.
I heard you say a lot about solar energy. Would you say that's the most prominent sustainable energy form there is at the moment, or are there others as well?
Sorry, can you please repeat your question?
There was a lot also about solar energy. Would you say that's the most prominent form at the moment of sustainable energy?
Actually, I talked a lot about the solar because, as you can see, our naming, we're solar cluster. So we had a deeper expertise within the solar sector, and also the solar actors, I can say, but also the other form of energies are developed in Morocco, wind and hydro electricity as well, or two other forms that are really developed and that you can see, because we have actually 2,000 megawatts solar, 2,000 megawatts as well, wind and hydro. It's quite similar in terms of the level of development in our country. That's why the solar cluster is not only solar now, because we are we had our last governance reunion, our committee, and we decided to open the solar cluster to the rest of the energy forms and efficiency energy. So we are working our new naming to follow up the development of these sustainable energies in general. So solar, wind, hydro. Also, there is the circular economy that is also developed. For example, production of green electricity or biogas from waste valorization. So we really are trying to maximize the impact of different type of green sources here in Morocco.
So with so much expertise already on the ground, what do you think would be beneficial for Dutch entrepreneurs, maybe businesses that they can tune into, have some examples or take some knowledge along to Morocco?
Yes, so I think that today, in terms of our sector, what is important and what is needed is really also regarding the level of maturity of the solar or the renewable energy strategy that has been launched 10 years ago. We arrived today to the stage where we are working, the government is working on the liberalization of the sector. So we're trying to open the sector to the private operator as well. We had lately in Morocco created the agency called ANR, is the Agence Nationale de la Régulation d'Electricité. It's our national regulator for energy, which is really new here in Morocco. So all this knowledge about the market's electricity or green energy regulation, about the intelligence, how we call that, the IoT systems. So how to digitalization also in the electricity, there is digitalization is really important for Morocco. We can benefit a lot from the experience of the foreign company that are already already ahead of Morocco because the European markets are already open, and you can inject on the network. You can resell your electricity, the excedent of electricity. So all this area today, it's something that we need to learn, we need to go through, because we are just at the beginning of the opening of our markets. So I think all the IoT system, the digitalization system, this artificial intelligence solution or systems applied to energy could be really interesting for our country.
So not only business to business, but also business to consumer opportunities for the Dutch entrepreneurs.
Exactly. It's really something very important for us at the moment. And besides that, we can also investigate the opportunities for all water technologies. As you may know, Morocco suffers from hydric stress, like very important issue with water. So that's as well something that we can discuss with Dutch companies. Systems for desalination, for example, with solar can be interesting. New technologies within the solar pumping without consuming a lot of water, for example. So water would be the second key area of investigation or collaboration with the Dutch company.
Thank you so much for your time and expertise, Mrs. El Khalifa. I think you're an important contact for our Dutch entrepreneurs who want to do businesses with so many or with your organization, so many possibilities to network. So thank you so much for your time.
It was a pleasure for me to share our experience here in Morocco, and would be pleased to answer all questions or to put through Dutch companies with local companies, and to enhance the collaboration between our two countries. And thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you so much. So right now, I would like to invite two gentlemen to sit here next to me at the table, and I'll just switch so that would be easier for them. Otherwise, they'll cross the camera as it goes live in the studio here in The Hague, because as you can see, we're all doing this live at the moment, some joining us via video call. And for our second half of this webinar, also joining us via video call is Amaranth Bergenkamp, and she's the Manager Energy of West and North Africa at FMO Development Bank. Good to have you here. Good afternoon. We cannot hear you yet. Maybe try again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And in the meantime, two gentlemen are seated at the table. Koen Peters, Executive Director at Gogla. Thank you.
Pleased to be here.
Yes. And Harmer van Heijst, the Founding Director of World Park.
Hello. Nice to be here as well. Yes.
So right now we're going into a panel discussion, share some expertise, share experiences, and of course, make sure to send in your questions via the chat so we can answer them for you as soon as possible. Maybe an outline of what it is that you do, but let's start with Amaranth. What is it that you do at the FMO?
Yeah, I'm heading the West Africa and MENA region at the Energy Department at FMO. So FMO is the Dutch Development Bank, and we focus on financing private sector projects in emerging markets. One of our focus areas is energy. So we financed large solar plants, hydro, wind farms, so large utility scale projects, but we also focus on the off-grid and mini-grid sector. So we have financed many players in that field. And yeah, we of course also have our Dutch desk at FMO that will be integrated with Invest International, that really, you know, focuses on Dutch companies wanting to invest abroad and support them in that.
Thank you so much. I think people at home will be wondering how to get your contact details, but also that can be done via the B2Match link. Koen, maybe you could tell us. I'm going to say Koen because we're in speaking in English, but Koen, what is Gogla for?
Yeah, thank you very much, Lee. Gogla is an industry association. We represent the what we call the off-grid solar industry, and that includes solar lanterns, solar home systems, solar-powered appliances such as televisions, and standalone solar-powered appliances such as solar water pumps. And we do what industry associations typically do. We speak on behalf of the industry, promoting the industry, defending the sustainability of the industry towards governments and donors and investors. And we convene the industry. We organize events where people can meet to network, to matchmake. We share knowledge among our members, and we discuss with our members what are good standards of doing business responsibly. And you say defend the sustainability goals, but I think that's an ambition that we're all aiming for at the moment in the world. Yes, but well. What I mean here is this is an industry that's been growing pretty fast over the last decade. So we're not talking about promoting the interest of that industry anymore. We're also trying to help the industry weather some of the shocks such as COVID or technology issues and production issues that we see in the supply chain right now, and help our industry cope with those kind of pressures in the industry. And the challenges that come along with it. Plenty of them. Plenty of them. We'll get to that in a minute. Harmo, what is your mission at Rural Spark?
Yeah, the main mission is to electrify as many people as possible, of course. And I think we do that in a way that we try to do that for the long term. So really establish partnerships with local distribution companies. They know the market best. We've heard that from previous speakers. You have to adjust to the local characteristics. And we do that through local partners a lot. And I think we bring in 4 main instruments. We have a physical product actually that allows people to really climb the energy ladder. So over time, increase the capacity of their kit. We have our own platform, software platform where people can use PayGo. And so users can pay over time for their product. We make sure that we build local capacity by training the local team of our partners and also having our own team on the ground supporting this local partner. And also we provide finance to our partners so they can actually purchase the products and install them. That's the main thing, I guess. Yeah.
So when you say electrify, you mean connect them to maybe sustainable energy sources?
Absolutely. Yeah, we mainly use solar energy. Yes.
Okay, nice. Well, I think it's good for all of you to be here today. And I just want to tell our viewers at home, the idea is here to just have a general round table set up. So people will be joining in onto each other's questions. So feel free to do so. And if you want to add anything from home, please do so via the chat. And I'm just taking a look. Not many things coming in at the moment. So feel free to do so. That's what we're here for. We're here for to share our expertise and experiences. So Harmo, you are actually connected in a way with FMO, right? What's the how are those connections?
They help us with entering new markets. So especially when you enter a new market, everything is new, and that's a higher investment than continuing in a certain region. And then FMO is sometimes able to help us to enter these markets, establish these partnerships, and bring the first products to the market.
Because is it just a matter of knocking on the door of FMO, asking for coffee? How were those connections established?
Yeah, they are established. I think we've been interacting on conferences, like the Gogla conference, and other occasions where we meet, and then I think we are aligned in what our goal is, and there we find we discuss the challenges on the market, and FMO has certain programs. It's a bit more complex than knocking on the door for a coffee, but eventually it's very good to work with them for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I heard a connection with Gogla as well. Some of the conventions, could you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah, networking is of course very important for people that are trying to set up a business and trying to find investors. So if you have a targeted event where you know that what's going to be discussed is relevant for your industry, and where you know that all the other participants are working towards the same objective, that makes it a lot easier to network. So we organize those events for the industry. We have every 2 years we have a big exhibition and conference. The last one we held in February last year, just before the COVID crisis hit. And as I was just connecting with Harman before this session, we memorized how that had been the last opportunity for both of us to travel and meet other people in person. So we hope we can do that soon again, but at the moment we'll need to do without that.
Yeah, so those are great moments to establish those connections. But maybe as an overall outlook, FMO. At FMO, there's a lot of experience on sustainable energy developments, of course, in West and North Africa. But what are the most important trends in that region?
Yeah, well, it's first and foremost important to outline that there's no Africa, no one region. So if you look at North Africa, of course, electrification rates, like, for example, in Morocco, are quite high. So we're not that active there anymore, but it's more in sub-Saharan Africa. You can see that 75% of the population, of the world population, does not have any access to electricity. So we see huge investments and opportunities there. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the investments have stalled a little bit last year. The good news is that about 80% of those investments are now in renewable energy. And the reason for that is that, it's now the least cost option in many of the countries and most of the countries right now. So that's very promising, especially for Africa and especially also for rural areas where most of the people do not have any access to energy. So there are a lot of opportunities because, there's a low access of energy, the least cost, and these are growing economies. So we are quite active in the region. For example, we just financed recently 2 solar power plants in Burkina Faso. We work together, of course, with Real Spark on off-grid in Burkina Faso, very exciting. Also active in Senegal, so finance a solar power plant there. And very excited that we also venture into new technologies like battery storage, so also working on a project there. But we also have to realize that it's not easy because, if you look at the ease of doing business, I think Senegal is at 120 and Nigeria at 130. So it's not always easy to do business in these countries. And I believe, many obstacles are, for example, licensing, getting permits, and these kind of things, but also access to credit. I think it's an important factor in that. Fortunately, we are able, for a part, to help out on that. We do that, of course, with Enel Business and our department. But it's also important to note that we have also established partnerships. So we have a partnership with the East African Trade and Development Bank to provide financing. And we're actually setting up a Dutch desk in one of the major commercial banks in Nigeria. So to also have people on the ground that can help companies out with financing needs.
Yes, and you just spoke about Burkina Faso, the project with Harman. Harman, how was the project set up?
Well, I think one of the main challenges is to really get a larger number of products to the country and get them financed. Somebody has to pay for it, right? And then I think with every sector you engage in, and it's still a relatively young sector, you need to push that a bit. And I think by working together with FMO, we actually looked for active investment in getting this first market entry rolling. And if you can do the first investment, then the local partner is able to put these solutions in the field and make some revenues, and again place a new order, and then you get an industry started, right? But to enter this new market, I think it's with every new market, you need financing support, and there FMO is a great partner.
And this is an off-grid project?
Yeah, fully off-grid. So it's really solutions. People, they put a solar panel on their roof, and then they have in-house, they have a solution for radio, television, lamps, of course, mobile phone charging, fridges. So home solutions mainly. We're moving towards a more productive use, small businesses to establish energy demands there as well.
So what are some of the challenges that you came across when setting up this off-grid?
I think the main challenge is it's the financing, like it's mentioned before, but of course also for us to find the right partners in the specific countries who have the operational bandwidth to really put these kits in the field, to promote the kits, to also offer and financing programs to the users, but also to maintain the kits. So you're not just making a technical solution. You need the physical infrastructure, you need the promotional infrastructure, and very important, financial infrastructure. So you really have to set up partnerships with FMO in this example, and with local distribution companies to be able to really reach the people who are in need of this energy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of necessity also on the finance part, but I can imagine there's also need for lots of expertise. Koen, what kind of expertise can the Dutch offer?
Yeah, there's lots of need to grow this sector. I'd like to respond a little bit to what Amaranth was saying about how the sector is developing and how there's not one Africa. There's indeed there's so much progress in this industry. When I started at Gogla in 2014, we had 30 members, and my predecessor thought that we were missing out on another 20 members, and then we would have captured the entire market. At the moment, we have 200 members, and we definitely don't think we've captured all the organizations and members in the space. So it's a very lively and dynamic market in which the Dutch are playing a substantial role. Out of those 200 members, around 12 or 13 are based in the Netherlands. But there's Dutch content also in many other companies, either in the management or in other ways in the investment. Yeah, that's a real mixture of players. The Dutch are particularly strong in the investment perspective. FMO is there, but there's a number of other players. Triple Jump, Triodos Bank, Oikor Credit is lend a hand on as crowdfunder. Are some examples of players that are relevant in our industry to provide finance and also help innovate on how to get this industry financed. And next to the more commercial players, we also have in Netherlands active NGOs and research centers, which altogether make for a fairly strong Dutch sector in this space.
So do you is your expertise combined with local people from Africa, or are there other countries involved as well? What do you see? What's it a mixture of?
Our members are coming from all over the world.
Yeah.
And what we still see is that typically the founders of companies and the lead investors are based in Western countries, but we do see a growing share of African entrepreneurs and African investors. Not nearly fast enough, but we're glad that it is increasing. We see Asian players and more Chinese players into the market. So it's a real mix. What I think is important for Dutch entrepreneurs who want to go out there, and I think it's been mentioned already in the presentations from the experts in Senegal and Nigeria and Morocco, is don't try to be an expert in everything. Don't try to build all the connections yourself. You need to work with partners. You need to specialize on where you bring specific value, and working with local partners is, of course, is crucial if you really want to build that bridge towards your end user.
Yeah, and I can see Amaranth agreeing with you on that.
It's the key lessons learned also for us. Like local partners, I think it's really key. And as Harmen also explained, yeah, the distribution, the development, the contact with the people, it's all local, and you really need to have that established to be able to succeed in a country, because otherwise, indeed, you will fail.
So those connections are made via just get to know people, call the Netherlands Enterprise Agency and lots of others, or follow Africa Business Week like we do this week.
Come to our events.
Come to the events, lots of possibilities on that.
Yeah.
So Amaranth, what changed in the past year with COVID-19? Were there any sectors that went twice as fast? Something slowed down? Could you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think, generally, like on the larger projects that we finance, we saw a slowdown because, of course, construction stalled. People could not enter the countries because of lockdowns. But generally, our portfolio has held up pretty well. So I must say, yeah, it's picking up pace again, and people are moving ahead, and people are traveling to the countries. I believe, yeah, I think also, we can elaborate a bit more on that. I think there's a mixed view in the off-grid and mini-grid space, of course, because, yeah, that, of course, people have been affected in terms of ability to pay. So certain off-grid providers have done extremely well, others have suffered. So there are a bit mixed views on that. But in general, we do see that the sector, yeah, energy is in the end a basic necessity. So people in the end will continue to pay, and the government will also continue to support these projects. So COVID has had a slowdown, but in the long run, we definitely see a step up in that respect.
Yeah, and Harman, you're with the feet on the ground. I was going to say you're in the field. What has changed during COVID last year?
Well, I think indeed things have slowed down a bit, maybe, but overall yeah, of course, the demand for energy is there, and it remains to be there, and it's only growing, maybe. And I think so things are continuing. What I think is what we saw already before is that the sector is maturing, I would say, and that people in the beginning there were players that were doing everything themselves, and now you see more and more companies specializing on a certain aspect of the value chain, which is a very important and good development, I would say. And I think we've only seen that develop further now. People specialize on what value they can bring to the chain, and that's really good to see.
Okay. And you would like to add?
I'd like to chime in on that, because what Harman and Amaranth are saying also comes out of the data that we've been collecting from the industry. We've seen the industry taking a hit in sales, and definitely the growth that we saw in years before COVID that has stopped. We also see the sales veering back already, not quite at where we were in 2019, but already starting to see a rebound. But we also did research among consumers, customers of our members, and some very stark information coming out of there of a lot of consumers saying that they had reduced spending on food and had borrowed money from family just to keep their energy bills paying. And I think that demonstrates how strong the demand is, and the need to get that demand fulfilled for energy access, how much people value that the lights stay on. And what we also found in our research is that investors on the whole have been saying that they remain supportive of the industry. They find that their expectations in terms of returns, and particularly in terms of impact, are being met by the industry, and that was also very, very good to see.
And this is actually quite an important year for you, isn't it?
It is indeed. Every year is important, but this is a special year in the sense that this year we will have the high-level dialogue on energy being organized in New York in September. It's a UN ministerial meeting, and it's the first time that in 40 years or so that this topic of energy access and sustainable energy for all is being discussed at this high level. There's definitely a Dutch element in there. In preparation for that ministerial meeting and a ministerial statement, there are 5 working groups working under the leadership of ministers that are called champions. Minister Kaag from the Netherlands is championing in the working group on energy access, and is supporting the working group on finance and investment. And so there's clearly Dutch leadership. Now, the immediate benefit and relevance of that for companies on the ground, and certainly for startup companies, is perhaps hard to spot. But what it will mean, I hope, is that over the next few years we'll see more public sector support for energy access, perhaps also more climate financing coming into the industry. And I think that public-private partnership, that cooperation between governments and private sector in the blending of finance for the industry and subsidies to make products affordable is going to be crucial to really speed up the industry going further. So I hope this is a signal of further growth of the industry, and that's why I think it's important and good to mention here.
Yeah, so global reduction of costs would benefit lots of people all over.
Yes, affordability of the cost prices of products is an issue. Not for everyone. We can already serve a significant share of the market and demand with the prices that can be offered to customers right now. But there's definitely a large group of customers that can't afford these products and need to be helped with subsidies. Also, because we've seen now years of falling prices in the solar energy sector, but this year we see prices going up from the microchip shortage. There's price increases in appliances, particularly televisions. There are price increases on solar panel and other raw materials such as copper. So this will translate also in higher prices, and of course that doesn't really help to the affordability issue, and therefore strengthen the message that we definitely need that dialogue with public sector, with governments on subsidy schemes.
Yeah, so Harman, we talked a bit before this when I started about the chip shortage as well. What does it mean?
It means longer supply lines. It means that you have longer periods before you can deliver to your partners. We try to cover that, of course, and it means that working together is more important. So we establish stronger relationships in where we source our products from and our components mainly, but also we try to focus on moving production, and that's starting with assembly to Africa. So we're now exploring assembly lines in Nigeria itself, so you can produce and manufacture closer to actually where you're delivering, and that's in very early stages. But of course, by that we try to intervene in the supply chain itself as well. Yeah.
So, Amaranth, if you were to give some advice to our entrepreneurs watching right now, what would it be for doing business?
Where do I start? No, I think getting your business case well thought through is the most important thing. So how do you, achieve your revenues? How do you manage all different kinds of aspects of the project? So think before you act, because I think many opportunities are there, but I think challenges lay in what we've seen in the past also. Sometimes too opportunistic or drivers of how good the business case is. So be realistic, really get local knowledge and on the ground. And we've seen partners earlier here in this panel. So really reach out to these people to get inside knowledge on the ground and get a good understanding of the market. I think that's very important. And a local partner, we've already advised it many times, but I think that's very important. So especially in the renewable energy space, it's not in the end the most easy market. It's a promising market, but there's a lot of competition out there. So also try to focus on what you really would like to offer to the market and see where your competitive edge is. And indeed think well about the business case and how you would like to bring it to the market.
Thank you so much. I think that's very useful advice. Koen, what would you say? What would you advise our viewers?
Yeah, Amaranth stole my words. I would say come prepared. That there's so much happening in this space. If your information on what's needed is based on what happened a few years ago, you will definitely need to read up, listen up, and see what has happened in terms of product innovation, in terms of business model innovation, in terms of policy developments in the countries in which you work, because the developments are fast. So come prepared. When you develop your business plan, and as Amaranth said, be well prepared, but also once you are prepared, be flexible in your approach, be nimble. Be humble, probably, because you will need to adjust your plan a lot of times before you settle on what will work for you.
Could you maybe give an example of a lesson learned where you go, I would like to keep you from doing that?
Well, I think Harman has a good example because they started off in India, and they're now in Nigeria.
Okay, we'll get to that later on.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good example of how radical you might have to adjust your plans if what you thought was going to work didn't work out quite in the same way. And the third recommendation I have is prepare to cooperate and to share. It's going to be an enriching experience in many ways, but probably not in a monetary way. So if you come with the intention to get rich quickly and you don't want to share, you're going to fail anyway. So be prepared to share, partner and cooperate, focus on where you bring real value, and appreciate the partnership of others who bring other values.
Good. Well, Harman, now I'm curious.
Indeed,
so tell us about the story.
Indeed, we started off in India in 2013, and in 2018 we made the shift to Africa for actually a very simple reason. I think the Indian government keeps on promising full electrification, and I think if you are promised that you'll be electrified by a government next month, then you trust that maybe, and you're less waiting for private initiatives to come. And I think in Africa, the situation is completely different. And that's why we made the shift to Africa. The market is more interesting, I would say, though I think there's a lot to do in India still, for sure. And I think what's also very helpful is that in many markets, there's a lot of private initiatives. So there's a lot of entrepreneurial power in, of course, also in India, but there's many small companies in many African countries that are really willing to step up and are able to move fast and do business. And that's really good to work with. So that would also be one of the advices, to really work with local partners that are able to contribute to. We work with partners where we use 1 year to develop as a software platform. They do it in 2 weeks, and it needs to improving over time. But you learn a lot from that, and you can start your business, and we can really deliver fast to customers, and that's a really entrepreneurial mindset. We love a lot about working in several African countries. Yes.
So do not be afraid to switch over countries if you need to, if promises are not met.
Yeah, of course. I also think it's really important to, if you promise electrification, you should be there for the long run. So to make sure you can deliver reliable solutions for the longer run, and also have people, then energy demand increases over time. So you'll be able to address that as well. So don't just move out of a country, I would say, but indeed you have to work with local conditions, and they have to be good to make your business work, for sure. Yes.
I can see, Amaranth, you agreeing on that? So you're nodding a few times.
Yeah, no. And I also really like the idea of flexibility that Koen mentioned, because that's what we really see also when we operate in the markets and we provide financing. I think first of all, in Africa, you need a lot of patience, lots of patience. Many times we see projects development and it takes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years for them to take place, even though the business case is great and the government is aligned. But I believe that you need patience, you need flexibility, because we've seen countries where there were beautiful regulatory frameworks set up for off-grid and mini-grid and great promises. So the industry really developed, and they see a change of government and they just decrease the prices for electricity, and your business model fails. So these are really things to take into consideration when dealing with the local situation. Yeah.
So the idea would be start today and start doing business, and it will take some time. But if you get reliable sources and good contacts, it's an obvious possibility to have a successful business over there.
Yeah, and a very concrete recommendation for those preparing their own business plans right now. In your spreadsheets, delay all the sales with 1 year or the sales growth, and see what that does to your bottom line, because that will likely happen.
Okay, well, that's some solid advice. I see everybody agreeing on that with a big grin. Okay, that's good. Well, thank you so much for your time, Amaranth, Koen and Harmen, for being here today and sharing your expertise. Let me just take a quick look at the chat, but hopefully you've been all ears, and that's why you forgot to type some questions, or maybe they're already answered by our moderators behind the screens. Thank you so much for participating in this second half, and I think people have plenty of opportunity to contact you via LinkedIn, B2Match, and all the platforms, and find all the information of your organization. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me thank you for your time, for participating in this last week. And by you, I mean the viewers of this last webinar of Africa Business Week, because it's been a full run. You had plenty of opportunities, several sessions, webinars, and hopefully lots of knowledge after this week, and know your contacts and how to reach them. Make sure you use the B2Match platform to get in contact with all the experts we had on session today. Of course, I would like to thank our experts of earlier in this session as well. So let me just make sure that I'll address it. Maybe you're still there, Mr. Diop, founder of EPM Consulting Senegal.
I'm still here.
Yes, you can still hear us. So thank you so much for your time and energy. Mrs. Tessa Bagu, Managing Director of Niger Link Nigeria, thank you so much for being here. I'm not sure if you can hear us, but we can see you. Mrs. El Khalifa, General Director of Cluster Solaire Morocco, thank you so much also. And as I said, I'll do it by full name. Amaranth Bergenkamp, Manager Energy Western North Africa at FMO Development Bank, Koen Peters, Executive Director at Gogla, and Harmen van Heijst, Founding Director of Rural Spark. Thank you so much for taking the time. As such, just let me recap again. B2Match platform, make sure to add everybody on LinkedIn. And very important, there are several possibilities to look at the sector studies, because there will be sector studies published in the upcoming months, and you can see them right now on screen. So there's Nigeria sector study on solar coming in June, the Ivory Coast as well, very important sector study on biomass also in June, and there are presentations and webinars about those studies as well, and they're all listed on the B2Match platform on the headline sustainability or green energy. So make sure to check that. And there are two more, as you could see on the slide as well. We'll bring that up in a second. There you go. Morocco, the sector study on hydrogen, available from September, and Senegal sector study sustainable energy that we're doing right now, that we talked to Mr. Diop about, also available from September onward. So the past few days, we talked about those 9 countries. We highlighted 9 countries: Morocco, Senegal, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Egypt, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa, and Ethiopia. And this was all organized by the Netherlands Enterprise Agency and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, of course, in cooperation with the Economic Network and the agencies. So on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for your time. Have a great week and have fun and much of pleasure doing business in Africa.